Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Supernatural Strength channel. Neil Pickup with you here in the mother fluffing house, and it's part number 3 of the Herman Stevens story. And mate, so much has happened. So much has happened since we were last on here. We've done the Christmas period. I ruined your drive to work with a brand new show. Only for think.
It was really the first 20 to 25 minutes. It was just like, oh, what is this?
Hey, you have no clue. You know when something goes down and you don't want to show that it's like thrown you. I thought I'd been set up. There was fluffery afoot, mate. So what happened? I don't know. I still don't know who. But one of the guys, I've got my suspicions that it was Gary. If I'm a betting man, I'm betting heavily that it was Gary, right? But somebody has worked out how you mess around with the screen. So they sorted it that suddenly the screen switches and we go from like the normal screen to a friggin' park where we're just coming off the step.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
I have never come across this before. And I'm like, okay, so I'm messing around, can't sort it out. And I'm like, somebody else has done this. So I want to like just carry on like it hasn't happened. So I'm using a little bit of, just let it go. Anyway, didn't work. So we stayed on at 20 plus minutes. Thankfully, I didn't know it doesn't record like that. So when it came out at my end, you can't see it, which is good. But at the time I was thinking this show's going to just be shit because the picture was blurry, all awful. So that was fun. But I'm glad you enjoyed the show, Herman. Glad you enjoyed it, dude. And the other thing that happened in between was, I think you put on an announcement that you're back, mate. New Year's resolution and all that.
Yeah. I never left arm wrestling, but I want to contribute more to my social media content and my channel and stuff like that. And I think it'll probably get me more active, whether it's training or whatever. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
So let's start with a bit of a plug, buddy. Let's say, where can people come and see your stuff? Where are you at?
My channel's H2S Arm Wrestling, and I might just change it to Herman Stevens at some point. But there's good videos there, weightlifting videos, numbers, how do you compare yourself to other elite guys in the world, and that sort of thing. Those videos are kind of damaging because they're just max effort sessions. Yeah. So I probably won't be doing those anytime soon, but I think you'll have some pretty enjoyable content on that channel.
And have you sort of for those people who haven't caught the first 2 parts of this, I'm going to put the links in the description, guys. Get back, check them out. Some really fascinating insight there on Herman's progression through the sport. But one of the things you will pick up from that is the fact that this guy has been through some pretty horrific stuff very recently, with his home, his properties, all being very badly damaged. So for you to come out and say that obviously you're refocusing on that a little bit, you must have had a lot going around in the grey matter in that period of time, mate, because obviously it's not like you're not distracted. You've got a lot of things going on. What's reinvigorated you? Why now? What's come up that's sort of sparked you again? Is it just the amount of conversation?
No, it was time. So, I moved back to Louisiana in 2018. Wife was pregnant, job change, all that kind of good stuff. I had a 2-year plan, right? Mm-hmm. I knew at the end of 2019, I was going to walk into Zloty at 209. And I knew in the first half of 2020 that I was going to be ready for maybe the Pan American, championships at 198, right? So that's the difference I think you'll see between me and a lot of my peers is that I have long plans, like year-long, 2-year plans. I don't say, I've done it in the past. I'm going to make 198 in 2 months. I drop 40 pounds. I get sick and all this crap. So I had a 2-year plan. In between all that, the baby, stuff like that, and now the hurricane, my plans have kind of stretched, right? Mm-hmm. So I didn't hit 209 by Zloty in 2019. I was 220 before I did my cut, so that was good. And then before the hurricane this year in August, I hit 210. Yeah. And I'm currently banned from any WAF competition due to participation in IFA and Zloty. So there's really nothing at 198 for me anyway.
That's a shame.
So if you exclude the hurricane, this was when I felt I was going to be ready anyway. Yeah. To really focus on arm wrestling. And recent news, I think I've had three out of the last 4 practices have been really good. I've done some hook pulling, and I think my elbow is okay.
Yeah, it's starting to stabilize a little.
Yeah, so now it's going to be time to slowly, ramp up inside. I've had hard matches outside, but I'm going to start, taking it slow.
And that's plagued you for how long now in total, mate? Because I know you were really bad before you went to the Zloty Tour. We'd spoken prior to that, and you said you had issues prior.
Probably off and on since 2016. I mean, you don't know it when you're going through it, but when you look back, I mean, Todd tore my elbow, both of my elbows up. I heard the left elbow tearing, literally.
Was that in that super match you had?
Correct.
Where you went left? Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we'll get into it. 2018, I pulled Robbie Burnett at Texas State, and Robbie's just a beast. I got in the setup. I locked everything you could possibly lock, and I said, Robbie's going to have to pull through everything, and he literally just pulled through all of the joint locks. My elbow was kind of frozen like this for about 30 days. And so every day I'm hanging dumbbells off my arm, trying to force it straight. 2019, I pulled Paul Passmore. Same thing, elbows locking up after that event. And then 2019 in Zloty, I kind of finished it off. On the 4th day of competition, I was underneath the Diction, and I actually held him off the pad for maybe a second or two, and I'm pretty sure that's really what did it in. Yeah,
and David's a beast. Very, very strong lad.
Yeah.
Very aggressive style as well. Very aggressive style, so I can understand why that'll do your joint a lot of damage. But that's good news anyway, mate. Look on the bright side. Excellent news that your fingers and toes crossed, that you're on the road to right, and at least the scar tissue's solidified, if nothing else. So, what's your sort of weight right now, mate? Where are you sat? Are you a little bigger now?
215.
Oh, so not bad at all.
Yeah, I mean, the week, and again, my weight's heavier because of all the hurricane drama, but the week before I pulled Mississippi, I was 220.
Okay.
Right? And I said, well, I'm going to Mississippi, I'm pulling super heavies. So I ate a lot that week. I think I weighed in at 228 with my clothes and my boots, all that stuff at the end of the day. So although people said I looked big, I was really a 220-pound guy, pulling supers.
And we had a couple of questions. One of the questions that we had in was, how big is Herman frame-wise? And I started to answer that in the comments, and then I thought, no, I'm going to leave it, and we'll get that question to you on there, because obviously you're not a very big man. So just for the people that don't know you, Herman, just tell people how tall you are and so on. Just give them a bit of an indication on that.
Yeah. I'm 5'10". I guess in the best shape I've ever been in, outside of arm wrestling, I was probably 185 pounds. As an arm wrestler, I was probably in really good shape at around 205, 210, but that's kind of heavy. So 5'10". My wingspan's probably 6'3". I have a very long forearm. I have a very short upper arm, and I have about average hands. I don't have a particularly good build for arm wrestling. I could argue it's actually bad for arm wrestling. My dad's about 5'10". He was a point guard when he played basketball. So basically average build, small guys. I mean, we're not big at all. We're damn sure not Rob Vigents or Storm Chalinos or Jordan Seals or any of these other guys.
And I think that had come on the back of some of the comments about your recent outing at Mississippi, where you pulled some big lads. I mean, you pulled Wayne, who's a very big man. What's Wayne? 6'6", big dude, very tall. So it is a serious step up in terms of physicality versus physicality when you start pulling guys like Withers. You're definitely a middleweight stroke light heavyweight. You're certainly not a heavyweight super, so that just for anybody who doesn't know Herman gives you an indication of what we're talking about size wise. Now another,
if you look at me at Zloty, in the 209 class, I am small. And I would say if you look at me, if I was in the 189 class, I'm probably still small.
Yeah. Not
that you don't have smaller guys like Rustem that do really well, but I think the greats kind of are on the extremes, right? 209, you might have Prudnik, who is huge, and then you also might have Rustem, who's really small and awkward. Things get a little difficult, I think, the more average you are.
And it's interesting, isn't it? I'd say there's also, there are exceptions to the rule, of course, as there always are, but I think in Europe there's some very, very big middleweight pullers, anywhere from 187, 198, up to the 220 class. You've got some really big lads, frame big, and I think that's more prominent outside of North America. Certainly Eastern Europe, if you look at the frame. And I think that's been a thing for a long time. Some of the more dominant arm wrestlers are very big guys at the class. You look at them on there, you stand on the stage, as you say, and you look down the line and think, holy there's some really big guys here. They've got the body fat of a tooth. Everything that's on them is just for the purpose. Not necessarily the case when you go to North America, when you go to Western Europe even, to be perfectly honest. I think your frames should get bigger with the guys in Eastern Europe. But we've got up to, in your sort of storyline, up to about 2015, I believe. 2014, 2015 was where we left off. And we did get quite a few questions, as you've probably noticed yourself. And we'll sort of flick-flack around in that a little bit, but I wanted to start with that, mate. One of the sort of questions that came up was that there seems to be a divide, and there was actually 2 or 3 questions which were similar to this, so we'll try and sort of fold them into one. And it was around really your perception of the European athletes at your weight class, and generally. It said there seems to be much more of an awareness from Herman than from most North Americans of the European arm wrestlers. It seemed like you were, and they made reference to, some of the guys made reference to your channel and stuff that you've done on social media where you were drawing comparisons. One guy spoke about lifting comparisons which you'd made between yourself and Yevgeny Prudnik in one of your videos. So just go into that a little bit, mate, in terms of where does that awareness come from? Respect, from experience of these guys, or just a general enthusiasm?
Well, I think it's a couple places. So, I remember early on, I think I trained with Craig Touye for maybe, 8, 9, 10 months, and, I was asking him technical stuff, and Craig said, watch Engin Terzi.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's who Craig placed second to at Worlds at some point. Mm-hmm. Craig's one of those guys, or one of the few Americans that are kind of near the top today that's actually gone to WAF Worlds.
Yep.
Right. So again, I was under that tutelage for a while. Team Louisiana had quite a few people that had actually gone to Worlds, sure. WAF Worlds. Eventually I moved to California and, spent a lot of time with Vazgen Segoyan, right? WAF World Champion.
Yeah.
So I've had people around me that made me aware if I wasn't already aware. And they put the emphasis on the WAF World Championships. If I was born in a different place and I'd been with a different club, I might not know who these people are. I may not care who they are. And I might think that the best guy on my team is also the best guy in the world, which we all know usually isn't the situation. So that's where it came from. And then, actually having gone to pull those guys, which not everyone can say they have. If I didn't respect them before, I definitely respect them now. I think it's a different level. And, it's not that, every European's better than every American, right? But overall, I mean, that's where the hub of arm wrestling is. I think today from a peak performance standpoint.
In terms of that residual level, the residual standard.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know, and I'm going to pick my words carefully here, but I did not, put anywhere near as much stall or rate as highly the most recent Zloty Tour Championship. You, however, competed in Zloty Tours prior to that, when there was no split, when that level was ridiculous. So, and I think it's good to underline the fact that you've had that experience of the very best guys, because through no fault of any of the arm wrestlers, that thinning out is going to be a problem going forward in terms of attracting that, because arm wrestlers are blocked. And a lot of the European nations where it's very tightly regulated, that's going to be a major issue, because these guys aren't going to be able to travel. They're not going to be able to compete in such as the Zloty and other events where, like you say, they would then end up banned from the WAF, and their country is still affiliated heavily to the WAF, which is a really sad state of affairs for the sport generally. In my opinion.
And I'll say this, Zloty never had, like 10 Rustom's in the class, right? There's usually 3 or 4 really top guys. And so I don't know I think the top 8 will hurt Zloty more than WAF, the WAF separation.
It's interesting, isn't it? Yeah.
Because you'll have Rustam in the top 8 and Prudnik and Angarbayev. Whereas if there was no top 8, if Zloty had Rustam, Prudnik, Angarbayev, then it's business as usual. You know what I mean?
But the point that I think you do not need to consider in that instance is the fact that prior to the split, I would always have argued that there was a number of arm wrestlers who, whilst you might not be as familiar with the name, the level was right there. People like Margaret, guys like that, who would come in and they may even be able to beat the recognised guy, but you just didn't know the name. But that level was layered and it was deep. Going forward, I think that situation is changing because it's thinning out to a point where a lot of the guys from Russia, from other countries like Turkey and some of the countries which you could ordinarily draw on, Bulgaria would be another one, where there's a hub of excellence like the Sashu Andreevs, Plam and Dimitrov and so on and so on. There are so many. That is a real issue because you could usually just go down that pecking order and say, okay, yeah, that guy hasn't had a shot, but he's right there, so we'll bring him in, we'll bring him in, we'll bring him in, we'll bring her in. Not the case now. That's going to be up in a big way. And I think that's a really that's a problem that we need to get past. I don't know how, but
and I really don't know what this level was last year because clearly I'd already pulled IFA World Championships, so I wasn't strong enough to compete with anyone or even gauge what the talent level was that past year. But I know in 2017, I got third right-handed, and I'm very proud of that. It's like one of the medals that I'll probably frame and put on the wall. But I forget, and sometimes I remember, Prudnik was in that class, and Prudnik did not place. I think Vasily Daltashvili rolled him, messed up Prudnik's shoulder. Vasily won, and then I beat Vasily. So it's kind of interesting.
It is, and that leads me, it segues really well into this next question because the second sort of element of that was around the whole discussion around North American arm wrestling, stroke professional arm wrestling in North America, whoever's involved in that, versus what you've experienced when you've been at the prior split, Zlotys, etc. If you take your elite upper echelon guys, so let's take your top 3 available there and your top 3 in Eastern Europe, what would your stance be on that in terms of a comparison level-wise, mate? Do you think they are very much comparative, there's not a lot in it, or do you think that there is still a gulf there when you get to those elite top lads? So to make that easier, let's say you've got
Rob and Dan.
You, Rob and Dan, or I was going to go Todd. But yeah, if Todd was still, in that.
Okay, so that's another thing. Americans are always heavy, right? It's just the way it is. Either we're trying to compete for for money or some entertainment league, or we're just fat. Yeah. Case in point, right?
I tend to go that route as well, mate. Burger King lives.
Yeah. Case in point, me. But so for instance, if you said 209, 210, me, Rob, and Dan, however you want to call it, okay, I've done okay. Dan did really well, but that was at 189, right? So it's actually kind of hard to place Dan, I think. I don't know if he does as well at 210. Rob, depends on what, you know what I mean? But potential-wise, Rob's got a potential to roast him. But that might not be a good cloud. Who's our best 176 guys, Neil? Tony, Luke.
Yeah, let me think. I mean, that's an odd one as well because they've dotted about classes, haven't they? I mean, I put Justin Bishop as 76s personally. Always. I never have Justin as anything above 76 really at a world level, you know. If I was picking an elite level, and the other guy I'd throw into that 76 mix would be Touye when he's right. I don't think Craig's frame's big enough.
So that's the problem. We're always too big, and if you want to talk drugs, I've always wondered, like, and I'm not an expert, and I've never done them. It's almost like we do the drugs to be bodybuilders, right?
Yeah.
People get on, Americans. We get on a cycle, and we get freaking big, up 280,
Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm losing what's happening there. Sorry, mate. Just one sec, Herman. Just losing your signal for some reason here.
You know what? You 110 pounds. I would take just enough so my levels wouldn't crash as I got to fucking 187 and roast everybody.
Mm.
You know, like, who cares about getting big? They take drugs, usually, unless they're going supers. They take it to stay within and be as strong as possible, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, ultimately, I think there is a gap.
Yeah.
There's a gap either way you want to cut it. And the approach. It's approach. They're professionals. Some of them, maybe a lot of them, is their full-time job, or it's their way out of poverty. But us, you know, it's our hobby after we get off work, right?
Different level of commitment.
Some of us prefer to have bigger muscles or look good at the beach.
Yeah.
When you look at some of these guys, I mean, you know, like Boston, he's all deformed and stuff and small. Like, they're not trying to get big, usually.
I mean, I've got to say, Herman, I'm a guy that has often looked really good at the beach, but only to them because I'm the Greenpeace ship that have gone trying to spot whales. Outside of that, not that good. No birds in bikinis stopping to clock me, son. Let me tell you now. But we'll get back onto sort of your own career, mate, on the 2015 path. Obviously, this is just prior to you being injured. Let's sort of walk through chronologically from that point as well.
So let's recap 2014. It's a big year. That's where everything like really changes. You know, I kind of go, I think, somewhere into that upper echelon. I start transitioning my training away from powerlifting, really to specifically going towards arm wrestling. I really start ramping up the side pressure training. I sort of ended a long period of one meal a day, and I started eating like just all the time. I think early in 2014, I went from having some tough matches with Jake Smith. Yeah. You know, I was about 205 and Jake was a strong 185 guy. To at the end of the year, meeting Jake on the practice table and just supinating under him, and then my arm just doesn't move.
Yeah.
And it was such a huge strength difference in that year that Jake was like, "Dude, are you on steroids?"
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I said, "No, breakfast is a motherfucker." You know, anytime anyone had pulled me, usually, sometimes at tournaments, definitely at any kind of practice, I hadn't eaten for 24 hours, and I probably maxed out on bench press before I got there.
Yeah.
You know? So you start eating more food, and your body catches up to all that, and you start training side pressure, you know, you kind of just, it's kind of off to the races.
And at that time, mate, were you training with a lot of guys, but of a lower level than you?
Yes.
See, that's really interesting to me, because so many times I've seen that happen. If you've got a really diverse crew of guys, that happened in my career, definitely. When I hit my absolute peak, as I had a lot of really good level guys, but they were below my level. And my level went through the roof. As theirs progressed, it was pushing me up, but I was never getting injured for a period of time. I think where I screwed it up then, I sort of went down that track of looking for that guy who was much stronger, and it damaged me, you know. Oh, I think Herman might have locked up, or we've lost him. Let's just stop and re-record. Just decide that, or he's super interested in that point I made there. I doubt that's the case. You there, buddy. So, did you hear the point I made there about you training with the lower level guys?
Yeah, you said you did better when you trained with low level guys, and when you were concerned and you went to go look for that stronger guy, is typically when you kind of injured yourself or made a mistake.
Correct.
And
yeah, there.
And so I would see that at times. So Tom Nelson lived about 4.5 hours away, and maybe once every year and a half, like it could get me to go up there, and we would pull for 5 hours straight, and I would be done for a whole month.
Yeah.
You know, and at some point you're like, this, I could have worked out 3 times a day for 30 days. I could have gotten 90 workouts in instead of just being injured from pulling in that one session. So, yeah, I did really well, at that period of time. Also in that year, and then to the point about the weaker guys, and I was telling Jonathan Breida this, you need weaker guys to pull, because now you get to practice all the intermediate stuff, the stretch positions, the side pressure, the wrist back positions, all those little things, and learning how to do it. You know, you don't just push sideways. If you watch Todd, he's pronating and rising as he's side pressing people back. So that's why you need the little guys. But also in 2014, WAL goes full contracts, right? Which really changes things going into 2015. I was not able to, or I did not want to pull the championships, the first WAL championships, which would have been, I think, in January 2015, because it was a contracts required event. But yeah, between eating more, WAL contracts potentially limiting me, and specializing on arm wrestling, that was like the huge key things that changed in 2014. Going into 2015, I pulled some events. I think I pulled the LA Fit Expo. I was probably, at this point, I'm probably 230 pounds. Yeah. Did okay. Nothing special. I think summer 2015, I pulled 3 events in a row. One was, Unified Nationals. One was the Patterson tournament in, close to Tom Nelson's area. And then the other one, I think, was UAL 9 or 10. And, I think, which one came first? I think UAL 9 or 10 came first. And that was the first time meeting Alan Ford. Yeah. Right. And, Alan pulled 205 right and 235 right and left 205. I pulled 235 right and left and super heavy right and left. Alan and I met, and at this point you're looking at numbers 2 and 3 in North America, 3 and 4, something like this. And, we grip up. I think Alan fouls out top rolling me, right? I maintain wrist position. I think I stick him out here. I think he fouls out. I think that's what happens. So we go through our classes. I'm doing well in the supers. He's killing the 205s. I think we come back again. It's a finger battle. He's going so high, and I'm just trying to contain. I think we both got a foul. And in the third start, he top rolls, and we're finger walking. Somehow, Neil, I got a finger on him, and I hooked him. But I went through his arm like a hot knife through butter. It was so bad. It was so bad that my arm came off the back of the bat. Oh. So I got the loss. I go through supers. I think I beat my Gould that day left-handed. I beat Petruncio right-handed. Like that looked really bad. Had some matches with Chris Chandler. Come back to Alan Ford. I think he beats me pretty easy, in the finals. And, the thing that I took away from that was I think I was the only person to put Alan in a hook without the straps. Yeah. Like, period, in that time period. I don't even think Rob did it. I could be wrong, but I thought that was pretty cool.
He was on a tear for a while there, Alan. He was on a tear. Very, very solid top roll. Very, very fast. Yeah, he was on a tear.
And, so left that event kind of disappointed. I think I pulled Michael Todd the next weekend. I go to Unified Nationals in Vegas the next weekend. Michael's cut to 220. Whatever. It was just me and Mike. I mean, we beat everyone else pretty easy. Mike and I had some interesting matches. The videos on my YouTube channel. I ended up bouncing off Michael's arm, but I think I pushed him, to the edge.
Mm-hmm.
I think when he did try to come up and press, like if he wanted to on the start, I think I had too much up.
Yep.
Not that he couldn't press me, but I think he was concerned.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm technical enough that you don't want to get out of position.
Yeah, he could feel something he didn't like.
Yeah, so that was interesting. And then the third weekend, and at this point I've got like a damaged wrist. I think I tweaked it pulling Allen, pulled Michael. That didn't help my wrist. Third weekend, I pulled the local tournament. It's got this beast in the class named Michael Bluth. Nobody knows who he is, but he's one of those freaks that had he kept with it, he'd be a monster. Mm-hmm. So I damaged my wrist doing that. I ended up winning that. And that was the summer. At this point, Neil, like there's nothing going on.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing, and none of this is big. UAL 9 or 10, it really wasn't that big. Unified Nationals is not a big event. That was drug tested, by the way. Mm-hmm. Patterson's a local tournament, but 2015, WAL's kicking off. They've got the big tournaments. Todd Hutchins is winning $20,000. I'm not participating. There's nothing on my schedule. UAL's floundering. We're kind of tapering off.
Did that piss you off, mate, that you weren't pulling in the big money shows? Because you'd have featured. I mean, you must have been that'd tweak that out of me.
I mean, maybe to some extent. Like, I know I wanted to be there, but there was a lot of, like, shit going on, like, in my personal life.
Yeah, just your mindful on it.
That I just had so much shit going on. And, like, just, how it is. You get older, you get exposed to different people, all kinds of crazy shit happens that you have no control over. And you just gotta power through it. So, you still train, you still compete. You're not 100% focused, but that's your distraction, right? So arm wrestling was my distraction from the other distractions. So I don't remember my training being anything special, but, I'm strong. I never stop training, even if I'm not focused. And now, like, I'm eating. I'm 230 pounds, right? This is probably the heaviest I'd ever been as an actual person that was training. So, I don't know, somewhere around August, or September, Vosgen calls me and says, hey, Igor wants to do a PAL Vendetta event in Vegas.
Yeah.
And I think this was going to be in November or something. And, I said, well, it's me. He said, who do you want? I said, well, it's me and Alan. And, probably not ready for Todd. Todd's tied to WAL, so that's not going to happen anyway. And Alan had just beaten me, right? So people always trying to bait me into matches. Mm-hmm. That's probably how you get me in a match.
Gotta win.
So perfect, you beat me, and I suddenly I'm a little bit more motivated.
So Ryan Bowen's at home at this point. You do realise, taking notes, need to get my ass down.
I told Ryan, I said, look, we'll beat Zlotty. It's inevitable.
Yeah.
And if he beats me as Zlotty, I mean, it might be so bad that there's no point in having a match. That happens too. But when Alan and I pulled, there was nothing in me that said that I have no shot. Obviously, it was close, right? And I knew that all I needed was like a little bit on my hand and wrist.
Yeah.
And it was done, which is easy because, one, I know how to train, and two, I probably wasn't even training my hand and wrist seriously because it was my strength. So, like, I just had it in the tank. So, to me, this is easy. So, we get it set up. We meet in Vegas, 209 pounds. James Redez is there. He's doing interviews. And James and I get along really great. I think in the interviews, you shouldn't have James interviewing me because then James and I get like on a certain kind of tangent. And then so remember this, if I end up at Arm Wars and James is there, you're not going to have any usable content. And James asked a question. He said, Herman, you're currently top 10 or whatever in the country and, people seem to think really highly of you and blah, blah, blah. Why is that? I said, well, James, it's because when they look at the list, they go, wow, that's the one guy not on drugs. And then
oh, yeah.
James and I just go, we can go off the deep end. And I'm sure it's a great conversation. I'm sure it's lost. I don't even know if Igor would have held on to it. He probably just deleted it. And sure enough, when we did all our introductions, you know, they had our faces like on the ceiling or something. It was on Fremont Street in Vegas. Coolest thing ever. And they did a little interview, backstory, and of course they cut all that out, you know. But so match time comes, we get on stage, and Alan's there. We both weighed in at 209, all that stuff. We grip up, we slip, we go to the straps, ready, go, boom, Alan, the hitman, right? Alan hits, and nothing moves.
Ooh.
Right? And I just looked at him, and then he elbow fouls, right? So we restart in the straps. He hits, nothing moves.
Oh dear.
And I just, you know, and it was just kind of, you know, the arm thing, just kind of put him down. And I knew it was over.
Yeah, when you got that kind of control, your confidence barometer will go.
But Alan's a legit, like a super legit arm wrestler. So the next match, and I have a history of making mistakes too, because I did it against Seal. Remember, I hit Seal straight side, and I lost my hand. So second match, Alan hits, nothing moves, and so I said, man, I'm about to light him up straight side. I went boom, my wrist goes. Okay, but this is a different Herman now. This Herman has a lot more arm than the Herman that pulled Jordan Seal 2.5 years before that, right? So I lose my hand. I come up, I get my wrist, and I do this. Boom! Right? So, full control. Third match, I think he's taking my hand out of the straps. I'm getting tired, right? And he has hand position, and he elbow fouls twice. Mm-hmm. In some type of position, good position, right? My arm, I don't think, was going anywhere, but he had a little bit of what he wanted. So I'm up 3-0, and Bob Brown's screaming at me.
Doesn't sound like Bob.
Yeah. Herman, if he takes her hand, let the match go. Give up the round, take a longer break, right? And I said, okay, Bob. So I get back to the table, we slip, we go to the straps. They say, go. Oh, I'm sorry. We're in the straps. And I'm sitting there going like, man, my hand is gone. You know, or at least I cannot maintain my hand. Mm-hmm. So, elbow front of the pad. I post as hard as possible. I secure my riser position. And I said, I'm going to keep every single thing except the bottom of my hand. Alan hits. And I just do this. And he's sitting there like he has his hand, but you could tell he has no clue why he can't move.
Yeah, he's just not connected at all.
He's not
wheel spin.
And I said, well, Bob said quit. I said, I'm going for the pin. I'm getting this match over with. And so I pull here, block, and I get my wrist back and I take his hand. And so I'm up 4-0. I play around trying to scoop him the next two matches. So I went 4-2. And that was it. And I mean, big day. I talked to Alan afterwards, and Alan said, he was confused, right? But when I talked to him, he thought that there was when we left UAL, again, I don't remember, 9 or 10, when we left that, I left that event thinking that I lost, but I'm a better arm wrestler.
Yeah.
And
no reversal.
Close.
Yeah.
Alan left thinking that we were not close.
Really?
Really? I was surprised.
Oh, okay.
I was talking to him after Salati. He didn't say I didn't think we were close, but just from what I'm interpreting, I don't think he realized that we were close.
Yeah, so he went away thinking, I kill him, no problem. And then was shocked.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That is really interesting. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But that was a big day. I mean, the Vendetta stage, I mean, you know how Igor does events.
Oh, yeah, mega.
Cool. You know, I'm on a card with, I think it was Lupke's there that day. I think Lupke's might have pulled Tokarev. Krasimir may have pulled Bresnan, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so just to be, it's just like WAL finals, just to be with that group of guys.
Yeah, awesome. It's a great experience, isn't it? It's things that's the stuff you take away. It's the memory box, isn't it? It's great being involved with something like that. Fantastic. Well, I have got to sort of put a bit of an interject in there, mate, and I can't help it. WAL. If they knock on your door now, reinvigorated, 2021, it comes back and you can get into the mix with some of those guys because you are a guy that can battle. You are a guy that's well-rounded. You are a guy that I would love to see in there. As the matchmaker, I would love to get you into that mix just because I know what you're capable of if you show up ready. What is your take on that? Because there's some animals in there, mate. Some animals.
Yeah, I mean, probably not interested. And there's maybe two major reasons, right? Okay. One, I want to be able to go to Zloty, right? I want to be able to go pull in North Korea and all these other places.
Why do you think you couldn't though? That's why do you think you couldn't? When you look at the crop now, Ryan Bowen, roster athlete for WAL, pulling Zloty. You've got the other week, TAL, Michael Todd was pulling in there. Justin Bishop was pulling in there. Both roster athletes, high-level roster athletes. Matt is pulled in other, it's...
And Rob's talked plenty of shit to me saying that, well, I get to do whatever I want. And then sure enough, Rob doesn't do anything other than WAL. And that could be his own personal preference, or it could be because he actually can't do some of these other things. Neil, 2014, I read the contracts, didn't like it. 2015, I read the contracts, didn't like it. 16, I read the contracts. And at some point, I just stopped reading the contracts. Mm-hmm. Right? So if someone showed me a contract that had something different than what I was reading before, I'll read it and I'll consider it. But that's my primary. I love doing the other things. Yeah. In that same vein, I mean, there's a principle thing too. Like,
let me put the shoe on the other foot. So you go and pull for PAL.
Yeah.
Their contract is potentially more binding, and I mean this legit because I know both sides of it. Potentially more binding than the WL contract.
Okay, but remember, I'm not a PAL athlete. I participate in PAL tournaments. So
you would have the same stance for PAL Vendetta or WAL Supermatch Series.
Yeah, I would have to ask
on a restrictive contract.
If let's say they're both restrictive.
Mm-hmm.
If I do WAL, is it worth letting go of this? If I do PAL, is it worth letting go of that? Mm-hmm. And the truth is, if I'm in PAL, what am I letting go over here? Because I can't do WAL, right? If I sign with WAL, I'd actually be giving up my participation in Zloty and IFA or whatever, depending on streaming rights and.
So now we're getting good, right? Now we're getting interesting, particularly with you, mate, because I love this. Can't help it. Now, got a devil's advocate.
I'll tell you this. The second issue I was going to say, and this doesn't matter if it's WAL, TAL, PAL, or any Joe Blow, or just whoever event.
Yeah.
Because of my health, Neil, right, I don't want to commit to your card, right? Because I don't want to go there first round, or let's put it this way. I want to have the freedom to walk away from a match because I'm concerned about my career. At a tournament in Mississippi, I can go there. No one's expecting me to do anything. No one's paying me to do anything. I don't have to be there. So if I went there first round and I grabbed a nobody and I said, my elbow doesn't feel good, I can lay down and walk off the stage. I cannot do that on the WAL stage, on BR Live, with all these people watching. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm going to disagree with that. I think you can, and I've seen it done.
No. And yeah, I can do all kinds of things. I wouldn't want to do that, and that has nothing to do with it.
You wouldn't want to do it. Yeah.
Man,
okay.
No, fuck no. You hype this up for 2 months.
It floats big time. But, but if you get hurt, it's a combat.
No, yes. But I'm saying, Neil, I'm already hurt, so I'm not going to agree to it. Now, if I was 100% fresh and training for a year, and I go to the match and something just so happens that my arm explodes in the first round, yeah, I'll walk away from it. I don't think WAL or anybody's trying to abuse the athletes. but I can't go into something pre-injured knowing that I could like walk out. Like, I mean, up until recently, I could go to a practice and just steamroll every fucking body in the hook and strong arm wrestlers. And literally one match happens and my arm's dead.
Yeah.
And it's not like, oh, my elbow hurts, but I still got 100% top roll. I mean, literally like.
Yeah, something's switched off. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Something's just switched off.
Yeah, it's nerve damage, basically. If you have a nerve damage base injury, I've been there.
It doesn't sound like that. I think maybe it's like either I lost so much side pressure that everything else even if I have 100% here, it just doesn't work. I don't know. But that was still happening. So I'm not going to go and have you base your event on me when I'm already hurt.
Yeah.
You know?
Right. So let's get into it here. I want to boil down your aspiration, your objective, your motivating factors in order. What are they, mate? What is the switch on point for you? What's the thing that makes you want to do it?
Well, I mean, I enjoy it. It's fun. I mean, ultimately, and we talked about this before, there was never I want to be world champion. I didn't even think I could. There was never I want to win money or even a trophy or anything. It was just, I want to be the best that I can be. Right? And, I think that's where I still am. Ultimately now I have to work around, all this other stuff, family, business, all other stuff. But
are you in pursuit of scalps? Are you in pursuit of guys that you can, when you hang it up, you can think to yourself, yeah, I pulled that guy and that was and I pulled him in that year and it was a measure and I know where I sit. You know what I mean? You want to sort of tally up your own sort of checklist of lads that you'd like to know how you fared against them.
No, I definitely couldn't give you a list. I've never built a list. But again, that was Todd. Like, that's what
brought me to that, mate. I'm going to be honest, because I know you wanted that.
Yeah, and I mean, like, it just probably choose Rob up, but like Todd, if there was a list, it is Todd.
Yeah.
Right? And there are guys that are as good as Todd, and there are guys that are better than Todd. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they're on my list. You know what I mean?
What about Rob?
Huh?
Does Rob hold any allure?
Yeah, I'd like to pull Rob. I'd like to pull Rob, and I think it's more out of just a let's see what happens, mutual respect type thing. But it doesn't, he's not this like shining gold.
Yeah. He's not the Holy Grail.
Yeah, and the thing is, like when I started, Rob had already kind of bailed out for a while. And Rob, up until recently, Rob didn't have that just monster streak, where he just like dominated for an extended period. So Rob's legend could be like 10 times more than what it is. But Todd went through like a monster run, then he quit, then he had another monster run, then he got like injured, and then he got even better, and then now he's on another tear. So Todd's just a special place. And when I started, he was the man, even though I think he was technically, semi-retired, but he had come back. I watched all the Gary Roberts interviews with Todd Hutchings and all that stuff. And, Todd's just like, that guy.
What about the European roster, mate? Is there an equivalent over there? Is it Zhenya? Is it Prudnik? Who is it? Is there someone over there that you think, well, I'd love to crack that dude, or I'd love to pull that guy? Not because there's any disrespect towards him, but
yeah, I mean, I'd love to crack any of them. I just don't. Honestly, they're so good, Neil. That like some of it's not even realistic, right? But I mean, like if I caught him in a tournament, I'd give it what I could, and if I cracked him, trust me, I'd be the happiest guy in the world. Like I told you with the Ford thing, if you beat me, you probably get a little special place.
Yeah. Yeah,
in the back of my mind. So I would say, like, Unger Bayev, right, would be interesting, right? But he's gotten better since we pulled in he's gotten a lot better since we pulled in 2017.
Yeah.
And
let's be honest, Kigali's gone to a place where he used to be everywhere and anywhere. He'd be all over the show. He'd pop up at Golden Arm, he'd pop up here and there, and then top 8 came along and he was that lockdown, you never see him anywhere, he's top 8 and that's it. So he's got 4 outings a year. End of. Yeah. So he's gone down the route you described earlier on where he's ultimately locks up, you know. Yeah. And that's why you're such a unicorn. You're not that guy at all. You have no interest in being locked up. No.
It's not that simple, Neil. I think if things didn't shake out with WAL like we discussed at the beginning, it might be a little bit different. Because if you were gonna lock me up, it would have been easier, I think, in 2015 before I had gone to Slotty.
Yep.
And set that as my targets. You know what I mean? But Angarbayev would be kind of on the list. The funny thing is when I pulled him in 17, we had decent matches. Like I could stop him. You know, I can get him in certain positions. Now I have more options that if I could stop him in those same positions, I could do more. The funny thing, and we'll get into it later, was after the tournament, some Georgian guys go, "Man, you're really strong." And I said, "What?" I said, "No, Angarbayev is strong." And they said, "Yeah, but you stopped him." They said, "We couldn't even stop him." So when the Georgians say that, you know, that's a compliment.
Yeah, absolutely it is. Absolutely it is. Do you feel like when you went over there, you were unknown? Do you feel like there's a lot of sort of shade cast at the Yanks, at the North Americans generally for their, lack of awareness or lack of respect for the Europeans. But is that not the same the other way around as well? You know, outside of the heavyweights, do you think that the lighter weight class guys in the States, in North America, if you want to lump Canada in there as well, and South America, fuck it, all of them, don't get that respect from the Eastern Europeans, from the Europeans? Do you think they, you know, if you go over there and you say, Rob Vigent Jr., they're like, bum, you know, you got 10 guys over here that whip him. Do you think that's the thing over there?
I think people are people. So the same way Joe Blow that's never left his hometown and thinks the hometown champion is the best guy in the world, you probably have a little bit over there also. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of like Russian and European content that we miss just because we don't search it in their home language.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So did they see my match with Todd Hutchings? Maybe not. Right? And that's one of the things. And that's one of the things I have now is, you know, I think we mentioned on another show, if someone tried to match Dan and I up, or some people have been trying to, and I told Dan, I was like, look, dude, if we actually pull this match, we're not doing it in the bar. You know? We're not doing it for $25, right? And it's not even about the money. It's about the production. It's about how you display stuff.
Yeah.
You know? But like the Todd Hutchings match was great. But it was in the bar, right? The filming wasn't that high quality. It was dark. You know, I think the match kind of got lost, even though it was a pretty damn good match.
Was Brad Cook when you needed him?
Yeah, there you go, right? Or Josie Drell, or Arnold.
Yeah. Brad Cook shows up that day, friggin' film.
Yeah.
Film is, and it's a good film as well. Everybody's watching that. If Brad Cook shows up that day, that's
Brad shows up, and then WAL goes, "Damn, this is good," and they buy it, and they put the WAL logo on it.
Maybe, hey, mate, Stranger Things. I'll tell you, that guy can make a film. My God, can he? But yeah, I was really keen to understand what that motivation was for you, because there's layers to it, isn't there? Because now some of the guys who are the sort of like the holy grail guys, the guys that I want to check that guy off my list, I want to check that guy off my list, are no longer accessible through the Slotty Tour, through IFA. They're locked in with the WAF, and I'm going to say brutally honestly, the WAF is by far the hardest tournament to win in the world right now. It used to be, in my opinion, the Slotty Tour, probably in terms of tournament arm wrestling. By far, WAF Worlds is the hardest tournament in the world to win right now.
Yeah, and when I committed,
I'm not talking about masters, I'm talking about senior.
Correct. And when I like folks said I was going to focus on Slotty, the logic behind it was that I could go to an event that was as hard as WAF Worlds, if not harder, or the difficulty would be similar, but just for different reasons, right?
Yeah, comparable.
You may not be as deep as Worlds, but everyone's hot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I didn't have to like go to nationals. I didn't have to do 2 trips. I wasn't tied to the host hotel and the expenses of the WAF Worlds.
I think the appeal for a lot of people also, mate, would have been that I actually would always say that the WF Worlds has probably always represented, certainly since the mid-90s, has represented the hardest, most difficult tournament in the world. But what it didn't have is anywhere near the attendance appeal. Outside of take the super heavyweights out of things for a minute, okay? But everywhere else, the WF Worlds, I think, was definitely the hardest place to win. But what it never had was that show factor that the Nemiroff World Cup or Zloty Tour as is now, had. Because it's a production. It's beautifully put together. It's just, everything. It's an event. It's a real... When you're out of the competition, you can kick back, chill out, grab yourself a Red Bull vodka, lie back, and yeah, it's on, mother. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's just a great show. I mean, I used to love being involved in the Zloty Tour. I used to love it. It's a great tournament. It's a magnificent event. And that's why I'm so sick that that's been clipped a little bit in terms of the notoriety of that tournament and everything that tournament represented. It's like, it's sickening. More than anything else, it's sickening. It is. Because it was that event that you look forward to. I used to, as an arm wrestling fan, you look forward to that. It comes to year end and you're like, oh, here we go. Get the friggin' live feed ready, it's on.
You also mentioned that, usually there's these names that you don't know, but they're just as good as the top names.
See, the funny thing is I know. That's funny, because I'm Stato. So I'm, me and Engin, I'm looking at guys, I'm on the radar all the time. That's what I do. I'm looking round at the guy that nobody knows, that's the guy that's coming up. And often speak to people about, let's say, oh, there's a guy that lives here that's, holy shit, I can't wait to see this dude when he pops up. And it excites me to see that new person coming up, Some guy from an obscure region in Uzbekistan, in Kazakhstan, in Ossetia, anywhere that's coming up that's an animal. And that, I suppose that's why myself and Engin have always got so deep into discussion, because he's the same way. He's just angrier. I'm fat and he's angry. So, but he's obsessed with it. Engin likes that as well. And a lot of the Bulgarian guys, I've got on very well with Krasimir. Krasi was on a show actually yesterday. And the same situation. You can go to events and it's like you haven't seen a guy in 2 years. You sit down in the hotel lobby, grab a beer and boom, you're off. And and it's great. It's a fantastic thing to get talking about the new blood that's coming up. And there's so many of them, Bojidar was a guy that came up yesterday. Are you aware of him? Obviously the Bulgarian kid. Beast. And he's that guy now that's, Bojidar's coming up and Krasi was saying he was really struggling with him. They were training the other week and he was having his hands full. That's exciting when you see these guys that are coming up and they're troubling, this is not a massive guy and yet he's troubling the guy that's just recently walked away with the overall Nemiroff title, or Zloty Tour title. So, there's some kiddies out there, mate. There's some hombres out there, and I was trying to understand where your aspirations were in terms of your excitement level. What do you want to get? Where do you want to go?
Yeah,
because that's what keeps you in.
I got to get regrounded. You know what I mean? Like again, it's not that I ever left the sport, but I definitely ramped down. You know what I mean? And I think as I get ramped up, I start feeling good. I'll probably be able to. I'll figure out what it is that matters in 2020 or 2021. As opposed to what really mattered in 2015 and 16, Now,
the other set of questions, you're going to love these. I'm conscious I'm keeping you on the call for a long time, and we'll wrap it up shortly and wait for round 4 and we can get even more questions in. But another set of questions that came in and really reignited after the 24-hour Armathon thing and the discussion we had on there was... Really, again, I'll encapsulate these 3 or 4 questions that came in basically on the same thread. They were saying, why does Herman not get pissed off with the fact that he's not able to pull Ryan? Because yourself and Ryan, obviously, you'd said that you were offended a little bit by Ryan or you found him disrespectful. And understandably so, because Ryan's trying to get himself into that match and is publicly... saying that you wouldn't face him, you wouldn't want to arm wrestle him. And some of the guys that were sort of supporters of yours were saying, does Herman not want to just shut Ryan up and put him in his place and, crack him? Now, I wanted to dig into that because I know that that's not your motivation. And I know that you're kind of, as I understand it, more, you try and piss him off more by not letting him pull you. Because you know that Ryan really does want to pull you, and whether or not you can beat him, the fact that he can't get himself into the match by doing that, I think you figure pisses him off even more. So he's furious about that. Just sort of go into that a little bit, mate, your inner psyche on how you see that. Because I wanted to get across the fact that you are different.
So for example, right? So you guys know Chuck Ryder, the Rampage or whatever?
Yeah.
So Chuck Ryder was talking all kinds of shit to Rob Vigent. And, so Rob gets ticked off and Rob says, I'll pull you for $1,000, but you got to come to me, blah, 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 blah. And so exactly, that's always the case. So, Rob puts up these barriers to basically make Chuck go away.
Yeah.
Right. And Chuck goes, okay, I'll drive 20 hours to you. Chuck goes, okay, I'll put $1,000 up. And it was funny watching the conversation. Rob then tries to get out of it, because it's like a major inconvenience. His time's going to get wasted. What is he going to gain by doing anything with Chuck Ryder? And then Chuck Ryder shows up, and I'm sure they had a great time, So with Ryan, why would I get pissed off and then show him who's boss, if that I can even do that, and waste my fucking time pulling someone that I just don't care to pull, right? So
here's the thing, right? Here's the counterpoint. And this I did find, where the frick was this from? Just a second. While I'm saying this, I will actually put this in there. It's one of the Eastern European, Ivor. Okay, from Ivor. And Ivor's saying, would he not think, with Herman the other day saying that he's coming out and he wants to do more, so I'm assuming you must have said on the Armathon, I don't actually recall you saying this. He said Herman's saying that he's going to do a lot more on social media, with conversational stuff and his thoughts on arm wrestling, which apparently he did say. Ivor's put there that, does he not feel like he could inject some serious traction into his own social media following if he was to take Ryan out of the game publicly? So basically, he's just saying you'd steal his thunder. If he bigged it up all over his YouTube channel and you cracked him.
Yeah, Neil, if I said, I want to do social media and I just got to get as many followers or subscribers, sure. But I think my subscriber count can stay the same. All right. I think I don't necessarily need a ton of subscribers. I think the social media stuff's a good exercise for me. It helps me interact with people. Even just having conversations with you, like there's hardly ever do I get to have a conversation with someone who, kind of has been where I've been. You know what I mean? Usually it's me and, 1 year guy, 2 year guy, 3 year guy, and they have no clue why I don't want to go to the tournament down the street.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So so social media, it's just another way to hang out with my arm wrestling family, family and friends and stuff. So I don't have to chase subscribers or interact with Ryan because I want to bolster my social media account.
And also, for anybody who doesn't believe you on that, you've also been cited a number of times as saying you were kind of pissed off when the bigger organizations came into arm wrestling because it sort of took away your thing that you do, your hobby. You were like little me time in a way, It's not a job. I don't want it to be that focused or that serious. I want it to be...
No. I'm like probably too serious about like everything. So I don't mind it being serious. But for instance, someone says, people all the time, hey man, can you train me? Right? And I go, no, I don't have the time. I'll pay you. Right? Okay. So now this is a business, right? This is not a hobby. So let me go factor and figure out what my time is worth. Right? After my job, after my family. And then I can go give you this stupid fucking number on what it's going to cost me to train.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, I do. I really do.
No, I mean, like, and so again, some people go, oh, well, you get $1,000 for this super match. Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
If you say, well, you just got paid $1,000 for 30 minutes. Nope, that's not what just happened. I got paid $1,000 for 3 workouts a day for the past 4 months, on top of whatever else is going on for that match. So as soon as you make it a business, Neil, that's a whole different story. And I'm not the average arm wrestler who's a poor business person or who doesn't value their time. Yeah. So the problem is that I'm more serious than most people.
Because you are thinking it through in depth.
Right.
And I get that entirely, mate, because so many times people will say to me, oh, do you fancy pulling this match? Do you want to pull this match? And I'll say, you know what? No, why not? Because, and it's not, they'll say, oh, you don't want to do it. You're not aching to do it. You're not burning to do it. It's not so much even that. It's that I physically do not have the time to put the effort and energy into pursuing that the way I want to do it. If I'm going to do it, I want to do it. I want to really do it. And I can't do it. I've no time. Just literally can't. I'm doing everything else.
If you want me to train you, there's a certain standard of training that I would expect if I was paying someone to train me.
Sure.
So again, that number is going to be stupid. So that's why I usually tell people, look, I don't want to train you. I don't want you to pay me. Send me a question. I'll give you a free answer. I'll point you in the direction and you can go try to lead yourself. Right? Or I tell people, go pay someone else. Yeah. Indians out there, Krasimir's out there. They do this full time possibly. Also, the $200 that you thought that you were going to pay me, you can't get me to do anything for $200. You know how far $200 goes in Bulgaria?
Yeah.
Like these guys probably, Neil, can be damn near rich training Americans. Mm-hmm. Whereas I can't do anything training Americans. Mm-hmm. You know, so the thing is, I'm way more serious. And steroids, people say, man, you should just do a cycle. That's too simple. That's not even the right question. That's damn sure not the right answer. The real question.
Yeah, if you wanted to do it, you'd be Ivan Drago. You'd come in like exactly on the right stuff. Exactly what you need to take.
Exactly. And also, the question isn't, do you want to do a cycle? The question is, do you want to do it forever? Right? And there may be a time where I say, yes, I'm going to do it forever. But that's the real question. Because once you get on it and you feel like God.
It's changed then. That's
it's changed. You can't be normal anymore. No. You're going to fall into some kind of depression when you go off. You can't go to the tournament again. You know what I mean? Like, can you imagine I get on the stuff and, hypothetically, let's say I just roast Todd Hutchings. And I go, oh man, I really don't think I can handle this stuff. It's messing up my personal life. And then I go back to not being able to roast Todd Hutchings. I went from the best in the world to just one of the guys in the pack, and I'm losing to someone.
It would mess with you. It would mess with your head.
That doesn't work that way, right? And I'm not saying that I couldn't do it, and I couldn't get over it, and I couldn't work through that if that ever happened. But it's more serious than just doing a cycle.
Sure. Yeah,
especially when you have gains left in the tank. Like I could eat better and get 10% better, right?
Hugely important.
I could let my elbow heal and get better. I could train smarter. I can train more than I've trained in the last 3 years. These are all easy things to do. But people just oversimplify everything.
It's remarkable, to be honest, that you've got the motivation at this point to even get into that level of focus with the distractions that you've got around you right now, Herman. With what's happened with your family home and the fact that you've got a young son at the age he's at and everything, and that's not going to get any easier in the next few years. But it's great for the sport of arm wrestling, in my opinion, that you're still attached to it. It's still in your DNA, that you've clearly still got the bug at whatever level. Because you're a residual force for me. You're a guy that can switch on. And if you do switch on, you'll be extremely relevant extremely quickly. And I think that's the key thing for you to keep in your mind as well. Just to give you that confidence that you are able to do that. If you can get yourself healthy, which, I'm sure you can do over time, then you will be relevant when you choose to be.
Yep.
And that's listen, I've kept you on here for 45 minutes now as well, and we had another 20 odd minutes before, so it's turned into a pretty long episode, but it's really easy to do with you, mate. I get carried away. Guys, we're going to wrap up this episode 3 of Herman Stevens' story. We've still got more. We got a lot more. We're warming up yet. So remember, guys, keep those questions coming in. and you will get some very, very diverse, very informative answers from this fella. Also, one more time, I'm going to check out again where you can see more from Herman. Also, Herman does the training page on Facebook, which, if I'm not mistaken, is the biggest following on Facebook, isn't it? Is there anybody else who's got a bigger channel? I'm not sure there is.
Ingen's group is close, but yeah, I think it is the biggest group, Neil, and it's a large part due to myself, Artem, and Paul Lynn. Mm-hmm. Most groups, if people don't know, typically get up to about 3,000 people, and they literally devolve into spam and ads, right? And when we started the training group, you know, at some point, I think it got up to, I didn't start it. I think Paul Lynn started it. It got up to like 3,000, 4,000, 5,000. It was going badly. I said, Paul, I need to join in with you. We need rules, and you need people like myself that will simply delete, block, and it doesn't matter who it is.
Yep.
If it's Travis Agent and we got to block him, we got to block him, right? And if it's, you know, unfortunately, if it's some nice crippled guy who's putting sales ads in the thing, we got to block him too, regardless of his disabilities and how nice he is. So that's what allowed the group, I think, to really take off and not devolve. But you can search for all kinds of arm wrestling groups. They got about 5,000 members. And if you go in there, there's no active interaction. You literally scroll endlessly, and it's all ads, tournament ads, spam. And I don't even understand how the posters still post to these ghost groups that have no interaction in them, right? So yeah, it's been a success.
And one more time.
Yeah.
Let people know again, mate, where they can go and see your own content online again. So your YouTube channel.
Yeah, my channel's currently H2S Arm Wrestling. I don't really know what direction I'm going to go in, but I think there's probably a lot of room for opinion pieces and just answering questions and stuff like that. So send stuff in. I have no problem answering it going forward.
Ladies and gents, you heard it here from the horse's mouth. And if this is your first time to Supernatural Strength and you haven't seen parts 1 and 2, remember, I'll put those in the descriptions. Get back. Check those out, guys. Some really, really good stuff. Gives you a walkthrough on Herman's career and the way he came into sports generally, his background, his boyhood. Everything is in there. Gives you a real insight on this fella. And as I say, we're only just warming up. So make sure you check that out. We'll get more from Herman shortly. If you've got any questions that you want us to put to Herman, just drop those in the comments when you look at the shows, and we'll get on there. I think, as you've probably gathered, he's pretty unafraid to answer most things. Ladies and gents, thanks for your time. I want to thank Herman one more time for taking the time. Got a lot going on at the moment. Mate, thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it. And if this is your first time on the channel, please like, share, subscribe, guys. And until we see you next time, take it easy, peeps.
What grabs your eyes on that, if anything?